Welcome to Steve 87th, Puget Sound and Pacific Railroad.
Hi everyone, this is Steve 87th PSAP Railroad, or Puget Sound and Pacific. This is my channel, and I just wanted to invite you guys to come along and watch as I build my railroad, build up some kits, do some kit bashing, and running trains like the one behind me. So if this is what you guys like to watch, stick around for a while and see if you like the channel. Okay, so I've decided instead of using up a bunch of plastic on this, that I would actually just use some foam core board. This is some ultra thin foam core board that I got when I was in Japan. So what my thought is, we're going to make the rooftop that this would sit on, which would be a big concrete building, on top of this. So to make my measurements quick and easy, I have some HO scale sidewalk, which is 6 feet. So I just want to make sure that I have about 3 feet on this side of the skirt. And then let's go with about 6 feet here. It makes it a fast, easy way to do the measurements rather than getting all the scales out. And then on the other side, we only need a small walkway there. So if we do about 3 feet, that should be good. The nice thing about working with the poster board stuff is that it's thin enough that all I need is a pair of scissors to cut this with. So we'll go ahead and strike a line across this. I haven't quite decided how big the house on this side is going to be, so we're just going to take the whole thing, strike it on down. We'll move these, and then while we've got these on here, let's just go ahead and strike out where they live, because we are going to wind up sinking these down a little bit, so we don't have to worry so much about the bottom sections and how they're going to look. And more than likely, we're just going to spray paint this all the same concrete color, since this is going to be concrete, and then we can make the roof detail a little bit better. Okay, so there. Looks just like it does on most models that you see. Not sure how straight this is, so let's get our square. Make sure that we actually have some sort of square on this thing, because yeah, we're pretty far off on square. So let's square this up so that we get the right cut at the right place. Square on that side. Once we've got that square, we've got a long enough line, and then we can just take it the rest of the way. Bad thing about not making measurements, you can sometimes be off. So again, it's just easy enough to cut this out with scissors rather than take the knives, although we will have some crushing. Let's see how bad that's going to be. Not too bad. Okay, so I'll cut these all out for the tops and the bottoms, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the bottom done and the circles lined out to where I'm going to do. I just decided that with as thick as this is, which is really kind of nice since this is going to be a concrete roof, we'll just go ahead and glue these together now, and then we'll paint it all up. One of the nice things about making this a concrete roof is the fact that, and we're going to put a building underneath it, I'm not going to detail out all of the items that you normally would, such as make the conical shapes underneath and all that kind of stuff. We're going to keep it nice and neat because the premise is that this building was built inside, you know, the residential kind of commercial district, so they asked them to kind of cover it up, reduce the noise, and also we're going to do this. So as you can see here, there's going to be a bigger house over on that side. That's going to be the conveyor building that goes into the underneath the railroad tracks. Okay, so we're going to have a dumper side, and we're going to have another side that dumps into the railroad tracks. So we just simply glue that down into place. We'll come back and we'll spray paint that all up, and then this will actually be the rooftop of the entire complex, which will be kind of nice. Now, the roof doesn't have to fit very far over either side of the rounds. This is basically just going to hold the structure that's going to be up here. So the structure is almost going to come up to the edge. My problem is, one thing that I don't have the bucket conveyor, which comes up to here. And once I get the bucket conveyor, which will be serviced from underground, and I know where it can come up to be, I'll be able to put the conveyor up there, so I know how far out the concrete had to go on that side, and then we'll cut it off over here because there'll just be a man ladder that comes up on this end of it off the top of the house there. So we're going to go and check out those structures, and we'll be back. Okay, well, I've gone ahead and cut up the chipboard, or the board, the way that I need it to. Again, this is actually the roof of the building that this is sitting on, and then those will be the tops. They didn't need to be much. So this turned out that I just needed to have it set up right over here. Basically, I'm going to use a grain elevator lift to put this up. So I had to put this together kind of real quick. But that's going to actually sit right up against there. And then this will come slightly out of it. And then this will all be covered by a house that will contain the conveyor belt on the top side. The top side is being weighted down kind of now. The weight of this should just hold it in there so that we could get the tops on. So that's where I'm at with that. Now I'm going to start building the bottom of the building. Haven't quite figured out if I want to make this concrete block or if I just want to go ahead and make it concrete too. Since we're at a mixing plant, you know, they might have just said, hey, we want this to be all concrete because we're a concrete mixing plant. So let's see what I'm going to do on that, and we'll move forward from there. All right, so what I've decided to do, I have some concrete cinder block from Micromark sheets. So what I plan on doing, these are actually self-adhesive, you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and make some 12-foot size walls because I actually have some detail parts that I could work with, some doors that I have. So we'll put in a couple of man doors, and we'll put in a garage door. The garage door happens to be about 10 scale feet high, so we give another 2 feet for it to be underneath it to roll up, and that'll be 12-foot walls. So this is about what a 12-foot wall will look like. The nice thing about the paper, again, we'll be able to just cut it easily. I've actually been cutting it with a knife. It cuts fairly quickly. And then once we get that, we will use the concrete brick to wrap around the wall. Now, I've already measured this out. This is about 45 feet. These are not quite 45 feet, so we're going to have some seams in them. The way that I figure I can alleviate the seams to make it a little bit easier is, so this is only 65 feet, so we've got to go 45 feet, and this is only going to be 12 feet across or so. But wherever we have a seam, that would be a good place to put a door, because it would make a good reason for there to be a big heavy seam in the middle of it where the door is going to be at. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some of this up. We're going to build up this bottom section and then put these concrete bricks on and see how that all works out. Okay? So here I've gone and measured up my 12 feet from top to bottom. We just come in here nicely, I've marked it off already, put in our ruler, just take our knife, kind of start with your knife down a little bit. It makes it easier for you to catch that metal edge. And then when you're drawing it across the metal edge, make sure you are inward a little bit. That way you don't have those lines that go all over the place. Mind you, this is just cutting through paper and all, but it's the same kind of principle. that you want to use when you're doing your plastic as well. That way you don't put the extra lines in it that you don't want anyway. Okay, so this takes about 3 passes, and then bam, it's done, which is really nice. So we're going to see if we've got enough material now. If not, we have more material that we can use and make a 12-foot section out of it. Okay? All right, so I went and measured this up, and I found out on HO scale wise, this is about 85 feet from end to end. That's pretty big. Even though we decided to make this hang over a little bit, it's at least a good place because that's where we want all of the mechanical area to be at anyway, right, for everything to go through. So what I wound up doing was cutting these down to about 82 feet. And then we'll just be able to glue those right on there. And then we'll apply the cinder block right to the poster board, so we won't even have to paint this. So when I go out to paint this, I'll go ahead and paint this whole thing without having the bottom building on it. So we're going to see how this works out, and we might actually do it with some tape. Kind of like in this foam core, it's really easy to cut and it's simple to work with, but yet you can see here it's pretty sturdy. So we're not going to have to put in too many joists in the middle of this. So let me go ahead and cut another 12-foot high strip of this so that I can do the sidewalls. All right, so let me do that. I'll get the sidewalls up and I'll get some inner walls, and then we'll show you what we're going to do from there. All right? All right, so we take our next measurement, find out where we're at. This building's actually quite heavy because of how, and we're at about 22.5 feet. So if we take 6 inches off of this side, put the walls back, so take a foot at least off of each edge. So 1.5 feet. So if we make it 21 minus whatever the depth measurement of this is, we'll be in pretty good shape. So let's figure out what those building markers are, and we'll go from there. So I did a little bit of experimenting. I wound up cutting this piece to 18 inches. So when you put them together, looking at how they set up on the wall, so this one gives me a few inches over here. That gives me a few inches over on this side of a hangover. So that gives some depth to it. Okay, so a little bit of depth on each side. And 18 feet, that's not bad for putting equipment in there and all that and having a door to be able to get into it. So we're going to stick at 18 feet. It also gives you a little bit of a room for an office in there for where it's a little bit quiet from where the machinery is operating at. Okay, so let's cut out some more pieces and we'll put this together. All right. All right, so I've cut out 4 walls, 3 of which will actually go, 2 of which will actually be on either end, and then 2 will be in the middle just for some stability. But one of the things that I decided was before I put the walls in, it'd be really nice to go ahead and put the cuts in. So just like in the plastic, we got to figure out where all these doors and stuff are going to go. And it'll make it easier for us to cut it now than it will be if we cut it later. One of the things that I had thought was that I was going to put this garage door here on the equipment side. But as I thought about it, that's right, it doesn't really, well, there's not really a conveyor system on the bottom of it. It's more of a chute system. So this would still make more sense of having this in where the mechanical equipment is rather than down on the far end where it would be blocked anyway, even if we put it in on the side. So I think we're just going to keep it that way, but thinking that there's going to be an office over on this side, we'll push it off more to the side. So this way we can come up, put in our lines, figure out where all this is going to be so that we can then put everything in and make it all work. So I'm going to line those up, figure out where I want my doors, how I want to put this together, and we'll be back in a few minutes. All right, so I went and did a little test fit on the track to figure out the best way to do this. So what I found out is I'm actually going to have the lift station somewhere in the center of this, because this will be on the track side, so the lift station will come up here to dump into the conveyor belt that way. So when I look at that, putting the door in where I actually put it, even though I could just flip it around, might be a little close because it's going to be at the end. Actually, that won't be too bad. So the next thing though that I need to do, because I said that this paper isn't long enough to go on the 85 foot, I have to figure out where my seams are going to be so that I can put my doors in. One of the things that I did check out was I can't have a door right in this area, because somewhere in there is going to be where the lift station is at. So I decided I have to start cutting my concrete block. Well, one of the things that I noticed when I go to 12 feet on the concrete block, this very top row is only a partial row. So if I put it down there, I'll only have a partial row on the bottom. So now what I need to do, well, actually no, that'll be right at the 12-foot mark. So I'm going to have to cut this at 12 feet so that I can go ahead and wrap this paper and figure out where I'm going to put my doors and so forth, which actually won't be too bad because it's simple to cut these in. Once I get the doors marked off where it's going to be at, I can go around and I can do all of this. So let's see how all this works out. All right, so two things I found out about using this microscale, the Micromark concrete blocks. They're not bad. The only problem is when you're doing this, you want to make sure of two things. Take your cardboard or take your pieces that you're putting together. Now remember, one of these goes inside. The way that this lines up, this piece will actually be on the inside. We've got to get curves. I mean, we've got to get corners on each one of these blocks. So the best way to do that, lay out your actual pieces that you're going to use. Okay. Take the back side of your knife. Now, the reason we want to put this at the edges is because we're not going to have that many doors there. And then what you want to do is make a score line through the back of this, right? We're using the back of your knife. If you use the back of your knife, you'll just get that kind of broken. Once you get those two sides broken, right, then you actually wrap it around. When you wrap it around, you'll get this nice, great crease. But you can see here, we haven't broken the brick line. So you don't get that big white section within the middle of it. So now what we're going to be able to do is, now that I've got the two pieces made up for how we're going to put the wall in, we can actually build out the building and using these affix everything together and then put in the center braces for more stability. Or once we put these on, we know now where we can locate the doors at. So it will give us the least amount of that seam coming all the way down. Although these seams fit pretty well together, there's still a little bit of overlap where you can see it. But if we do the seam, if we do the door right where the seam's at, you're not going to see that because the over height is going to be way up there. So you're not going to see as much of the seam as possible. But you will make sure that you line up the bricks. Okay? So we're going to cut some doors in and figure out where everything's going to go. All right? All right, so this is real important. You want to come up and you want to mark your sides. So one of the things I realized, I can actually manipulate this a little bit with my where I want to actually put my brakes at. Now the good thing is on this side, this is going to be the track side, so it's not going to be seen so much, but I still need to have a door here. But if I line this up, and if I look, I could actually put a seam on one of the center portions of the tank. So that could actually be where I want to put my dump station at. So that whole thing would be covered up by the riser that was there. The other part is, we come over here, we check where this is going to be at. Oh look, there's a nice place. We need some room on the track side for a door anyway. A door would fit right over there. Okay, and that would cover most of that seam up that we would see. So then all I have to do is cut the piece that goes in between those two areas, right? So that doesn't seem too bad. And then on the other side, we'll have two doors, one that'll go into the office, which is at the shorter end, and the other one will go in as a hard door over on this side. Now, one of the things that you want to remember, when you figure out where you're going to put your vinyl, you want to mark both ends of where the vinyl goes. So this is the two side, this is the two side. Those are the things that you want to make sure. This is the one side, this is the one side. That way you know how your vinyl is all going to have to fit together when we do this. Okay? I'm going to go ahead, do some cuts, lay out the other doors, get some other things made, and then I'll come back to you, all right, when we start to put this all together. Okay, that's going to do it for tonight. We'll bring another installment where we start actually assembling the building and putting some more of the details together.
So this is Steve with Steve 87th PSAP Railroad saying good night, and we'll catch you next week.